all is ready, we'll continue this circus and get the show on the road. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome y'all to the April meeting of the Laconia Zoning Board of Adjustments. With that, would we please hear the roll call?
Mike Delavecchia, Roland Mayhew,
Yep.
Ori Gibbs, Mike Foote,
Here.
Steve Bogert,
Here.
and Suzanne Perley is absent this evening. We have the planning department director, Dean Trefethen, present as well. And I, Robert Moore, will be doing the minutes.
All right. With that, we have 5 people to start with. Never gonna. Mike? Mike. Sorry, I do apologize.
He's my cousin.
Bookend our mics.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry, I'm slow. You'll be joining us all night tonight.
Very good.
Okay? And with that, we're gonna go into the minutes. Everybody had a chance and opportunity to review the minutes and stuff?
I think he wrote a book.
All right.
Well, that's what was requested. So he did as requested, and we appreciate
did.
that.
Thank you.
So, anybody have any changes or
No?
additions or? There being none, I'd like to have a motion to accept as is.
Motion to accept.
Second?
All those in favor? Okay, passes. Okay, next would have been the site walk, or the results of talking about the site walks. I do apologize for not having a site walk, but I think the weather outside is pretty much
Right.
explanatory in that. When we get to you, I'll ask you some questions real quick before we start, okay? Okay, so we had the acceptance of the minutes, extensions. So, we're gonna continue the public hearing, which is the 84 Summit Avenue. Applicant is seeking the variance to store trailers in the front yard of property.
And
You can
Ed
come-
B.
And she'll be excusing herself, so we're gonna have, before we get started, with 4 members, a 2-2 vote turns out to be a negative. Okay? You would need 3 votes on, anytime there's 4 people here, 3 votes to make a passing of whatever, if it was to reject something or if it was to accept an application, you would need at least 3 votes yes. Okay? So, my first question is, would you want to continue tonight with the 4, knowing that a 2-2 would be a rejection? 3-1. I'm not trying to pressure anything, but
Nope.
I like to give everybody the fair opportunity. It wouldn't be until Susan came back, she's out tonight, that we would have a 5-person board.
Okay, no pressure. First of all, I'd like to pass on my condolences to your friend, your colleague, past mayor, city councilman, Armand Bolduc. Very nice man. I met with Armand over 20 years, many times at political functions and gatherings, and very nice man. So my condolences to all of you. I guess the important question is, are we gonna have a site walk? I know not, give me 1 second. I know right now, we're not gonna have it. I called the planning department today at noontime, and it was confirmed that it was on, and it was pouring like heck, and raining and snowing and sleeting and all that, and I got a phone call at 3:25 from the director saying that it was canceled, and I do understand that. Unfortunately, I wish it was canceled earlier, then we could have tabled the whole thing, so I wouldn't have had to drive up with another neighbor of mine 2 hours from Massachusetts. But with that said, if it pleases you to table it until you have a fifth party. I guess that would probably be in my best interest, but are we still gonna do a site walk? Or, I don't know.
May I?
Sure,
Okay.
your
Was
your
gonna be
room.
The third, second and a half or third part of the question was, gonna be the site walk, okay? Cause we did promise you the site walk. So by choosing this, we can move it to the next meeting and then we could do the same thing and reschedule the site walk, okay? Because, I think it would be in everybody's best interest to have the site walk.
Okay,
Okay, so if that's what I was gonna try
Yep.
and talk with you about to see if we could work it out to
Sure.
next month's meeting, which would be on a Tuesday. Instead of the Monday, it would be a Tuesday.
because of the holiday?
No, because
Why?
of the council has, budget meetings.
Okay, so what would the date be, Rob? If you don't mind?
The 22nd.
22nd of May? Perfectly fine with me if you want to table it till then and do a site walk at 6 PM. I just ask that if we have bad weather, you notify me by phone by noontime.
I do take that responsibility. I was hoping it would clear up, and as I sat in my car in my parking lot at work, drenched from cleaning my car, it dawned on me it probably wouldn't be a good idea. So
Well, I get that.
I apologize for that.
No
That was
problem.
my doing, and I take the full.
No problem, no problem. Next time will be great, that's fine. We'll table it, May 22nd, 6 o'clock.
Okay with the board? All fine
We're
with
good?
me?
Good,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Again, my condolences to everyone.
Same time, 6 o'clock up there?
6 o'clock. And that's May 22nd?
Yes, Tuesday.
Isn't there a planning board meeting on this? No, they're on the, when's the planning board meeting next month?
The 8th.
When is it?
The 8th.
8th, thank you.
So we have an application for next month. Sorry.
I was hoping for a little vacation.
Oh, well. Okay, let me clean this up, then we'll move to the next one. Okay, we'll now move over to public hearings, and the first one tonight is application 2018-0003, 150 Birch Haven Road, requesting a variance for expansion of a non-conforming structure into the front and side setbacks. Would the applicant come forward and please introduce yourself for the record and tell us how we might help you tonight.
Absolutely. So I'm Henry Sacco. This is my wife, Susan. We also
Good
have.
evening.
Good evening. Good evening. We also have with us our architects. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Sonia Mashashik, and I'm with Mashashik Turpin Architecture Planning. We're located here in Laconia, New Hampshire, and I have Claire Wilkins with me as well from my office.
Welcome. So, how may we help you?
Absolutely. So we have been owners of property in Laconia for the last 16 years. We recently moved into our home on Birch Haven Road as permanent residents now. The home was built as a camp, probably back in the 50s, 60s, or something like that, originally with a very small crawl space underneath. Within the last 5 years, we've done some work to it to make it more livable, but now that we're living there permanently, there are some additions that we would like to make. To be specific, we're requesting variance for 3 different items. The first is to add a 1.5 car garage to the home on the street side. The second is to add a very small porch on the front of the house right next to the additional garage. And then lastly, a deck on the lakeside, a deck coming off the back of the house on the lakeside. Now, the reasons for the variance, I already mentioned, we are now permanent residents. We live there year-round. And we're really just looking for a reasonable amount of living space and primarily security for our belongings. Things like my wife's car, my lawn equipment, my tools, and other items. It'd be great to be able to store that in a garage, a dry and secure area. We're also looking to have a covered egress in and out of the home, as well as a deck for entertaining during the summer months. All of this is very common for homes in that neighborhood, so there's really nothing out of the ordinary that we're requesting. From an impact perspective, the expansions do not impact any side, encroach any further to side reference lines. We are not getting any closer to our neighbors in that regard. On the lake side, we are not encroaching on the reference line to the lake. And there are no changes to the height of the house in any way. In our view, there's no loss or impact, including visibility or views to our abutters or material changes to the character of the neighborhood. We do have an existing non-conforming shed, which is in the front of the house, which will be removed once we add the 1.5-car garage. And then lastly, the proposal, we've worked a lot with Sonia and Claire over a 3-month period, looking at many, many different options, and this is really the minimum request that we could make that would add the garage, the small porch, and a relatively medium-sized deck on the lakeside.
Okay. When you say, what's the size of the deck?
The size of the deck is 12 by 15.
12 coming out from the house, or 12 wide?
Coming out.
12 coming out,
Oh, there's
15 wide.
Yeah,
here.
the green one. There should be, we should have another, yeah. That one shows the structure a little better.
Explanation.
Is there anything I can?
So your deck is,
We can point, we have different boards, we can point things out for you if that's helpful as well.
So what are the side setbacks? 10 or
25.
25,
25 on the sides?
yeah.
If
There
I
are very
could-
few of the homes in that area.
So I don't know if you can see this, but the line, this line, this
Yeah.
dotted line here.
Yep.
And this is the existing home.
That dotted line would be if you were going to meet all the setbacks.
Exactly,
Where you
yes.
could actually build, which is
Correct.
what happens with.
That's the buildable area,
Yeah.
correct, yes,
But it's outside of the 50 along the water line, and
Yeah.
it's-
correct.
and the other violation would be in
What he's looking at,
front.
this.
Correct, so it's,
No, I understand,
Yeah, okay.
but what's this here, is
40?
that really,
Is that the
56
front is
feet.
40?
correct, yes, 40.
The frontage,
you know,
Probably.
56 feet, 49 feet,
yeah, they will.
really?
Yeah, this subdivision, or do you want to save that for a discussion? I was just answering a question of Mike's. Mike was questioning whether the frontage was actually
I guess I was mumbling to myself. I guess, here, I'm
The
sorry.
smallness of the lots.
The-
that
Yes,
they
it's
are.
a
Is that
very
really
unique
56
subdivision.
feet on the front of this lot?
I'm sorry.
What is the width of the frontage on this lot?
The water frontage?
No, the road
Road
frontage.
Road frontage.
5636, is that it?
5636.
56 feet.
It is 5636, just saying.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a very old
The next one's
subdivision.
40.
It is. It's very old. It's very unique.
Tiny, tiny lots.
Yes. If I could add too, so I've spoken with all my neighbors. It's a close-knit, very close-knit neighborhood. It's also a private association. I've spoken with my neighbors and they were all supportive, as well as the association itself.
You got a letter from them, didn't you?
I did. We did provide a letter from the association. Yes, sir.
I do have a question here, if I may. So what I see on this existing conditions here is this porch. Does this porch get absorbed into the house?
Are you talking about the front porch,
water
sir?
side, on the water side? And the proposed deck?
So, on the lake side, there's an existing screened-in porch that is part of the house already. That becomes part of the living space in the house. That actually becomes our new kitchen.
Oh, I see.
Well,
what-
it is.
yeah, I
It
see
is
what that
today.
is. This actually would be part of this section right here.
And on the front side, you're just moving towards Birch Haven Road with your garage, and you're removing the shed?
Correct, sir. We're not moving any closer to either side of the property.
Do I take it the green is indicating just the build area, or is that the undercover area?
You said the green.
Well, it's green on my,
Yeah, you're
Sir,
highlighting.
if you're referring to this, the blue is the new construction.
okay. Just the footprint, and what part of that, just the garage will have a roof over it with the little small entrance porch?
Correct, correct.
No roof over the deck.
No roof on it.
Yes, correct. It's just a plain deck.
We're just showing the footprint area of it.
And all this area through here, is that gonna have roof over it?
Yes.
Currently does.
The blue area there?
This area right here, the bottom, already has roof over it. That's the
okay.
current entryway.
Okay,
That's the edge of the roof
Yep.
above.
Right.
and so all this area through here also have roof?
It will.
It will, yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
basically all of the, what you call blue there on
Correct.
this side's gonna be under roof?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
We're effectively,
Is that a single-story garage? Is that a garage with a pool table up top? I mean, is it?
no pool tables up top, sir. Yes.
And the roof line's gonna line up? The roof of one won't be any larger or out of shape than the rest? Yeah, okay. So it'll still remain a single,
Correct.
okay, cool.
We may do,
Is that a walkout basement or
yes,
that lower section?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, sir.
All right.
excuse me, to answer the question regarding the space above the garage, we'll most likely build it with attic trusses and have a pull-down stairs so that they could go up just to store additional items that they might have. That would be our intent, but it's not like habitable space at all.
No plumbing, no?
No plumbing, no, none of that.
Extra electricity other than for lighting? or-
Basic, like, exposed bulb sort of lighting up there or strips.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions at the moment? There being none, I'd like to go ahead and open it up to the public and ask if anybody, y'all may take a seat for a
Thank you.
second. Ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Please come forward at this time and introduce yourself for the record. Let the record indicate no one from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. I bring it back to the board. Any further questions?
No,
Any closing statement?
I just want to assure that the shed will be taken down if we approve.
We
the
can make,
application.
if
that
it's
would be make that a
in the
condition.
motion, we can make that.
The shed is almost disintegrated at this point, so
Wants to go.
it's definitely going somewhere.
The road get ugly, you know. and,
Absolutely, yes. It's
know,
definitely going away.
If it seems your plans fit with the neighborhood.
I'm sorry?
Your plans fit well with the neighborhood.
Thank you, thank you.
So, any closing statements? With that, I'm gonna close it to the public, bring it to the board for discussion.
No, I think it's a reasonable request. Not moving any
Reasonable
closer.
use.
Reasonable use, not bringing it any farther into the side setbacks, which would have been,
Covers the hardship, they can't do
Covers
nothing
it,
because the
yeah,
house is
because the-
already,
it's a small non-conforming lot to begin with, and there's really not much else you can do with it and actually stay within the setbacks. So, and they're staying back from the shoreline, the 50-foot
yes,
shoreline line,
that's
so,
one of the few I've seen that was
yeah, that actually
more than
does that.
50 feet back. Okay, any other discussion? Yes, sir.
If I may, I fully believe the applicant intends to remove the shed, but I would suggest that you put a condition on the approval, if you're going to approve, that the shed be removed at time of certificate of occupancy application.
Duly noted. Thank you. Any other thoughts? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I will make the motion to accept the variance. ZO 2018-003 for Birchhaven Road. Non-conforming structure to the front and side setbacks.
Okay, as we go through the requirements, okay, the variance is not contrary to the public's interest, as it would add to the neighborhood's value, and it would be in line with the other properties within the area. The spirit of the ordinance is observed because it's allowing use without overburdening the area with the new structure. Even though the side setbacks and the front setback would be, continue to be in question. That's why they're asking for the variance. The water side is still unimpeded, so, which is usually the most important side, is the water side. The variance of surrounding properties are not diminished. The values, I don't think, would be diminished by the property being improved. In fact, it would probably help maintain, if not improve, the values of the other homes as one improves its own property. Literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And the unnecessary hardship here is that the building envelope on the current property is less than is smaller than what the current house is on the property, which anything they would do to it would impede the ability to use or have reasonable use of the property and the structure.
And we want to make the requirement that the shed will be removed
Certificate of occupancy.
upon the application for certificate of occupancy?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, we had the motion. We got a second?
Second.
Discussion of the motion. There being none, all those in favor of the motion? Okay, passes. Enjoy.
Thank you all, thank you.
Well-prepared application.
See it.
Do you need any of these prints?
See.
You want your survey?
Extras just in case.
Yes.
If you don't mind, I wouldn't mind the clips if you don't.
Oh. Have a clip.
Clips. See, I knew you guys were good Yankees.
I didn't have one, so I'm.
This one back too?
Sure, why not?
Sure.
I'm a collector.
All right, so that's done.
Okay. Next on the agenda is application 2018-004, 575-577 Main Street, Lake Regions Mental Health. Request for a variance for a 30 square foot wall sign where only 24 feet is allowed in the downtown Riverfront District. Would the applicant come forward, introduce yourself for the record, and tell us how we might be of service?
Good evening. I'm attorney Regina Nato. I'm here on behalf of the Lakes Region Mental Health Center, and with me is Edward Drury. He's in charge of the Veteran Affairs Special Projects Division or projects for Lakes Region Mental Health Center. I know you weren't able to do a site visit earlier, but I was wondering if I could invite you over to the window to do a site visit for this particular project, because you'll be able to see the
Sure.
sign out the window that I'm about to speak to.
Oh, it really is on this side.
It really is right there, yeah.
Literally, right there.
It really is.
Are you okay? You want your crutches?
Yep.
You good?
Oh, yeah. I can see it from here.
It's the white lettering up and to the left,
Yep.
between the first and the second floor.
I'm gonna have to go around this way and see if they can see it.
Is that illuminated?
No.
So is that in question?
That was in place of having an exhibit, and you didn't get wet on the sidewalk. So,
Nice, thank you very much for your,
How to win and influence friends.
the reason we're here tonight is because we made a mistake. Lakes Region Mental Health Center has been going through a process for about 2 years now, trying to find a new home. And some of you may have read in the newspapers about a year ago where they were looking at the building that's now a fitness gym that shared space with the municipal parking lot. That didn't work out due to issues with the parking area, so they went forward and they ultimately found this property across Beacon Street, which formerly housed a subsidiary of the Laconia Hospital. We entered into a contract, we purchased the property, Lakes Region Mental Health Center hired a general contractor to essentially completely renovate that structure. And somewhere in the process, the issue of sign permitting fell through the cracks. And so instead of having our general contractor go for the sign permitting, we had our Veterans Affairs Liaison project manager do it instead of the general contractor. And he admits that, you know, I think they thought that it was grandfathered because he was told by the sign contractor there were brackets up there. The point being, this sign is not conforming. It was not built in accordance with the requirements of the city of Laconia, but it also wasn't done intentionally to thwart any of the rules of the city of Laconia, so that's why I'm here tonight. The reason I'm here is because we need a variance. The sign that you are looking at is under the ordinance called a wall sign, and its dimensions are 12 inches by 30 inches long, 30 square feet. Under the zoning ordinance, we're allowed to have 12 inches by 24 feet. But the ordinance also allows us to have 96 square feet of wall space but you can't, but we're only allowed 2 signs, so it kind of contradicts itself. It says we can have 96 square feet, says we can have 2 wall signs, but if they're limited to 24 feet each, you're never going to get to 96 feet. You'd only get to 48. In addition, we do have, I think it's either a 14 or a 16 square foot sign on the corner of the property, which adds to our 30 square feet. When Lakes Region Mental Health Center purchased this property, the 911 address was Main Street, which is the opposite side of the building where there's one-way traffic. Because all of the access is from Beacon Street, they went through the process of having the road address changed, though I'm not exactly sure if that was 911 or mailing, but it was done. The parking lot that's in between the Lakes Region Mental Health Center building and Beacon Street is shared by Lakes Region Mental Health Center's neighbor, which the building which currently houses Citizens Bank. So Citizens Bank is to the north of our building, and then Citizens Bank shares the parking lot with Lakes Region Mental Health Center. I think they're 55-45% respective owners. So there's between 105 and 110 feet from the front of our building to the closest edge of Beacon Street. If you count the roadway and are walking on this side of the road, you can add another 30, 40, 50 feet. And so that's one of our claims as far as a hardship with the limited amount of wall space that we're allowed to have. The ordinance, as far as I know, doesn't distinguish between whether you're trying to put up signage where you're very close to the receptor, whoever's going to see this, or you're very far away. There's also a type of practical standpoint, which is if our building would allow it, we could probably put our name as 2 different so-called wall signs, each 24 square feet, but we can't because of the windows and the layout of the facade of the building. The purpose of the zoning ordinance with regard to signs is to promote aesthetics, to enhance the economy, to enhance pedestrian and traffic safety, to minimize impact on abutters, and to assure consistent treatment of other peoples who are using signs for commercial purposes. I would submit that the signage that the mental health center ultimately selected is entirely consistent with that of this building, with the historic mill next door. It meets the requirements for natural type of material. We don't believe that there's going to be any impact on passing traffic or pedestrians. Again, this property is set back. We need visibility, but we certainly don't have a flashing sign or anything that's encroaching, hanging over into the right-of-way. This sign this wall sign is there to promote this business, which employs a good number of people in this community and serves a very large number of people in this community. So despite the fact that we are 6 square feet over what would be allowed for 1 wall sign, not 2, 1, nothing that we're proposing interferes with the goals of the sign ordinance. I've included in my application packet responses to each of the criteria, and I know in the past the board has indicated to me that you read through all of these and don't necessarily want me to go one by one through each of these. But I can say that I believe we meet the spirit and intent of the ordinance because we meet all those 5 criteria I just went through. It will promote our business. There should be no adverse consequences to the city. I put numerous examples in my packet to show you that there are butters all around us with either larger signs or signs of different materials. If anything, we're very conservative in our sign. The hardship is the distance from the building to the road, the fact that it's a one-way road. We want to get the attention of people looking this way or over their shoulder, and we don't want to make it difficult. It's stressful enough to try to get our patients to this property, let alone to have to miss it once or twice on the go-round. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Question, the 90, well, I used to have a table of sign dimensions and stuff, and I don't see it here.
I've got a handout where I actually blended
No, that's
them.
fine, that's fine. I thought the 96 square feet was total site signage.
For this one zone, there's one small note for wall signs that makes it, just for wall signs, 24 square feet. Other than that, they would be totally acceptable in having that sign.
So we can have 96 square feet, but only 224,
Only 124
only one.
12 by 24, yeah,
wall sign.
wall sign. You could have two separate signs that total 96 square feet, but you can only have one
Wall sign.
wall sign, 12 inches by 24 feet.
And I don't believe if what I did was I cut and paste both the grid and the rules that are on the back. And I don't know if it's possible to get to our 96 square feet because we're limited to two signs. So I don't know how we could have a 24 square foot wall sign and then have to come up with what, 65? I don't think there's another sign that you would allow that's 65 square feet. So there's an issue with regard to when we talk about consistency on the application of the ordinance. If you look at other districts near us, you'll see in the CR zone they're permitted 4 signs. In the commercial zone, 4 signs. BCI, 3 signs. BC, 3 signs. So I think that it's a matter of math that somehow we can't reach that 96 square feet. We're not asking to, but we're asking for a modest amount of square footage to adequately make our property visible.
Now, that sign's only on this side?
Correct.
It's not on the opposite side?
No.
Is there any signage on the other side?
No. I think there might be a logo in a window in the doorway.
So this basically is the main entrance?
That's the main entrance.
Okay, well, that makes
Well,
sense.
the problem
then.
is if that sign was any smaller, it would defeat the purpose. You can't see it.
Right,
I drove by today to take a look.
right.
Okay. Any other questions at the moment? Yes.
So, as you know, we've been going through preparing to adopt a new master plan. And one of the things that we are aware of is how the downtown is divided into multiple districts. And each district has its own regulations, and sign is one of those things where, and the attorney is correct. I mean, if you were just up the street a few more buildings, you'd be allowed to have a much larger sign. I mean, the example that I've been using is if you're on the southerly side of Canal Street, this side of Canal Street, you have one size sign, smaller. And if you're on the other side of Canal Street, the northerly side of it, you get a larger sign. You know, I mean, Canal Street's Canal Street, so that doesn't make sense. But that's where the zone is divided, and then the rules go from there. So one of the things we've recognized is that we need to consolidate the zones in the downtown, put everybody in the downtown onto the same footing. Now, we haven't got there yet, so hence we're here tonight, but this to me is a very reasonable request.
Thank you. So any other questions at the moment? If there's none, I'd like to open it up to the public and ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Please come forward at this time and introduce yourself for the record. Let the record indicate no one from the public wishes to speak for or against this application. Therefore, I bring it back to the board. Any further questions?
No, it seems reasonable to me.
Reasonable.
Any closing comments? With that, I'm gonna close it to the public, bring it to the board for discussion. Seems kind of straightforward,
Yeah, very straightforward, very reasonable.
and looking at the proof in the pudding out
Yeah.
there is, it's kind of
Fine signs.
There
very
we go.
well put.
Fine sign.
Any other discussion? There being none, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve application ZO 2018-0004, 575, 577 Main Street. Request for variance for a 30-square-foot wall sign in a district where only 24 square feet is allowed, the downtown riverfront district. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest. It's not illuminated, it's not changing, it's not going to be distracting. It's consistent with other signs in the area. It gives the applicant the opportunity to advertise and label their building without being overly ostentatious about it. The spirit of the ordinance will be observed in that the ordinance would actually allow a combination of 96 square feet for two signs, and which would be difficult for them to achieve. But with the kind of sign that they have, 12 inches by 24 inches would be the maximum. This is simply 6 square feet over the 24 feet allowed. This allows the placement of the sign in a reasonable location and substantially the previous location that the sign was in before. Substantial justice will be done because of the it's done tastefully and low-key. Materials required under the ordinance. It is similar to signage on buildings in the area. It's set back far from the road, so it needs to be large enough to be seen, and this achieves that. The value of surrounding properties will not be diminished. This does nothing to detract in any way from any surrounding buildings. And literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship in that the construction of the building itself with placement of windows would make placement of two signs difficult, and this one 12-inch by 30-foot wall sign achieves the end that the applicant needs in conformance to the structure of the building as it currently is.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the motion?
Right.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, it passed. So,
And another well-put-together application. Thank you.
okay. Any updates or anything worthy of any of the I guess we're with we can't talk about that anyway. Well, pending court action, you can't talk
Yep.
about.
Still pending.
Yep.
Still pending. Good answer. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else for the board tonight? Remember, next meeting and the following meeting is, instead of on that third Monday, it'll be on that third Tuesday. Okay, and we have a 6 o'clock site plan, and I do apologize for calling it so late, but.
I just thank
Thank
you
you.
for calling it.
Okay, with that, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, aye. Good
Aye.
night.
Short
And
and
I will
sweet.
be out on May, for the May meeting.
On these
but I'll be
here?
Back for June.
Well,
Sometimes
that,
it's
you
helpful
wouldn't
just
be
to
able to
wouldn't
sit
be-
on
wouldn't
there
be able to sit
anyway,
on
because
that
that's the
anyway.
only application we got,
information is
so.
there.
So,
I didn't realize he didn't.
Instead of reaching for the second piece
although it
of
would be
paper to
interesting to
want
hear
to,
what you have to say.
is that right or wrong? Okay. Just used to,
Whatever you
just
want.
used to seeing it, then it's a process.
Whatever makes everybody happy.
But I thought he lived there all the time.
I see you.
It was almost on Rhode Island.
I'll bet.